All righty. Good morning. Good morning. Had a few technical difficulties, but we've worked those out. Thank you all for joining me. I am Curtis, host of Practical Finances. We are, again, getting started a little bit late this morning, but hey, let's get going. We got some good information today. I want to thank you for joining us for this morning's session. We're going to be discussing credit reports and scores part 2. All right. First of all, I want to thank last week's winners. We had 2 winners for the t-shirts. Those were Rita and Sandy. Thank you so much for participating. What I want to do really quick here is go back and just summarize 2 of the major points from last week's show before we get started. So you can kind of get a point of reference as to where we're coming from, so to speak here. So let me share the screen. Okay, I need to share the screen. It's been disabled.
You're good now, Curtis.
All righty. Excellent. All righty. So 2 major points from last week's episode. All right, so 2 key points from credit reports and scores part 1. Number 1, your credit history can affect your access to credit loans, jobs, housing, insurance, and other important services. And number 2, you can take steps to improve and manage your credit scores. This includes paying your bills on time and as agreed. Those are the 2 main points that we took from last week's episode. That will help forward us into this week's show. In fact, let's go ahead and get started right now. So part 2 of credit reports and scores. Now we're going to be talking about getting and understanding your credit reports and scores. Now, part 1. Now, this is what you need to do. You need to get and review your credit report at least once every 12 months to make sure that the information is accurate. Okay. All right. So what is a productive credit history? All right. Now, you do have rights to free credit reports. Now, again, as I mentioned before, you get 1 free credit report every 12 months from each nationwide credit reporting agency. That's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, the one site that is commissioned, or that's the official website to order these credit reports, is annualcreditreport.com. Again, that's annualcreditreport.com. That is the one site that is commissioned, again, to fill orders for these orders of these credit reports. Now, you got to watch out for imposters now. There are others that advertise a free credit report or scores or credit monitoring, but only one is legally mandated to do so. Now, when they do these other sites, if they do say they provide free services, you got to be real careful, because what happens is there is a trial period, like a week or 2 weeks or a month, where the service is free, and then after that trial period, then they charge you a monthly fee, $39.95 or $39.99 or $50 or some other price. But again, if you go directly to annualcreditreport.com, you can order your free credit report. Now, let's make sure we're clear about one thing. You will get copies of your credit report, not your score. And I will discuss in just a second here how to get your scores. Okay. All right, so there are some additional ways to receive a free credit report. For instance, if you receive public assistance, you get a free credit report. If you're unemployed and you're looking for a job, the job placement services will provide you the resources to get a free credit report. If you're a victim of identity theft or financial fraud, you can get a copy of your free credit report. State law provides for a free credit report. And also, if you're denied credit, service, or an apartment or employment, you will get what is called an adverse action form. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but that adverse action form or credit denial form will allow you to get a free copy of your credit report also. All right, so let's move on. What's on your credit report? What information is on your credit report? Well, personal or identifying information, your name, your social security number, your address, things of that nature. Public records. So if you have any collection items, charge-offs, bankruptcies, judgments, those items also will show up on your credit report. Accounts assigned or sold. And what that basically means is if you have a mortgage and that mortgage company decides to sell the servicing rights to another organization or another financial institution, those two organizations will actually show up on your credit bureau. So that again, assigned or sold. Any credit accounts, department store cards, credit cards, auto loans, consumer loans, those items will also show up on your credit report. And inquiries. So if you apply for credit through a financial institution, if you are looking for a job, those inquiries will show up on your credit bureau also. All right, now this is the part about your scores. As I said, annualcreditreport.com will be able to you can get your report and review that, but this is how you can get your scores. There are some nonprofit organizations in your local towns or municipalities that will allow you to get your credit score. Credit card statements. There are a lot of credit card services now that actually provide your credit score. I have a Capital One card, for instance, and I'm able to obtain a free copy of my credit score through them. I think also Discover, for instance, provides that particular service. If you go to myfico.com, you can get a copy of your scores. If you go to vantagescore.com, as you can see here, you can get a copy of your credit score. If you go directly to the 3 nationwide credit reporting agencies, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, you can receive your credit scores directly from those individual sites. And even Credit Karma, I'll put that down there. You get 2 of your scores. You get your TransUnion and you get your Equifax scores, Experian score, I believe, from Credit Karma. They won't give you 3, but they will give you 2. So I personally have Credit Karma, and it's a very good site to use. All right, so again, a key takeaway from part 1 is get and review your credit reports at least 12 months to make sure the information is accurate. And of course, we just went over ways to obtain that. Now, next section here is disputing errors in your credit reports. This is extremely important. So as I mentioned in the promo, if you have your notepad or your digital advice, make sure you take good notes on this section here. Now, if you find errors on your credit reports, file a dispute right away. Do not wait. Do not procrastinate. File right away. And be sure to keep records and follow up. Now, there are types of errors on your credit report. All right. And let's go through the list real quick. Number 1, identity errors. Let me give you an example of identity error. I had a friend of mine, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I'll tell you the story again. I had a friend of mine, to protect the innocent, we'll say his name was John Smith. We were doing I was doing a loan for him. We pulled his credit report and we discovered that his credit score was terrible. And the reason it was terrible is because, number 1, John Smith is a very common name. So when we reviewed his credit report, we noticed that there were credit items on his credit report that dated all the way back to when he was 4 years old. Now, of course, we all know no one can enter a legal binding contract until they're 18 years old, which means there was another John Smith's information that somehow populated on his credit report. He was able to get that information removed, and his credit report, just completely increased quickly. So that's one of those errors. Another one is incorrect reporting of account status. You may have paid off a creditor months ago and paid them off and closed them, but for some reason that particular institution did not update that information, and it's still showing on your credit bureau. So that's another kind of error that will show up on your credit report. Then there are data management errors. There are balancing errors. You may have paid off a debt and it's still showing as not paid. You may have had a $2,500 balance on a loan 6 months ago, and when you go back and recheck it, that $2,500 and you paid it off and that $2,500 balance is still showing. That's a balancing error. It should have updated by then, which goes into outdated information. That's an example also of outdated information that is that you've already taken care of, but that's still reporting. So those are some errors that you may find when you do review your credit report. Now, extremely important here, there are time limits on negative information. Generally, negative derogatory information can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. Bankruptcies can be a little bit longer. So let's go over a list of different kind of negative information and how long that can stay on your credit. All right, hard inquiries. Hard inquiry is when you apply for a loan through a financial institution, whether it's a credit card company or a bank or a finance company. If you are applying for credit, that is considered a hard inquiry. That stays on your credit for 2 years. All right. Now, each time you do pull your credit, it can lower your score a few points. How much that lowers your score, it depends on your situation. One little point here I wanted to make. Also, if you are looking for a house and you are looking for instance, a car loan, the credit inquiries for a home or for a mortgage company and for a car loan, if it's done within a 2-week period, will count as one credit inquiry. All right, let's make sure we're clear on that one. You're looking for a house, you're looking for a car, you can look at different institutions, and if it's done within a short period of time, 2 weeks, it will count as one inquiry. All right, so I just want to make sure we're clear about that one. Number 2, any delinquencies, slow pays, missed payments, collection items, that stays in your credit bureau, can stay up on your credit bureau for 7 years. Charge-offs, that's when a company writes off a debt for non-payment, that can stay on your credit for 7 years. Any student loan failure to pay or non-payment, that information stays on your credit bureau for 7 years. Foreclosure, so that means if you purchased a house and you didn't make the payments and the bank takes the house back, that stays on your credit for 7 years. Also a judgment, if you're sued, you're taking the small claims court, for instance, for non-payment or someone is suing you because of some kind of legal issue, that can stay on your credit report for 7 years. But lastly, bankruptcy. That's the one deal or the one negative credit issue that will stay on your credit report for 10 full years. It's not to say that you can't get credit if you're in or out of bankruptcy, but it just means that that particular item will stay on your credit report that long. All right. This is extremely important here. Medical debts and credit reports. Now, medical debts generally are not put on the credit bureau or are not placed on the credit report until at least 180 days after it's considered negative. So reason why they do that is because they want to give the person the time to resolve any billing disputes, number one. Number two, make payments, or number three, make payment arrangements. So you get an additional from the time that is considered, they want to put it on the credit bureau, they still give you another 6 months to be able to resolve the issue. All right, so just make sure that you have a little more leniency when it comes to medical debt. All right. So how do you dispute errors on your credit report? Number one, you can do it online, or number two, you can do it by mail. Now, in this digital society, doing it online may be a better option for you because it's a lot faster. I mean, doing it by mail can be a little bit slower. They do call it snail mail for a reason. So if you can do it online, please do it online. Now, what do you include in your dispute letter when you are disputing an item that's incorrect in your credit bureau? Make sure you put your complete name and address, number one. Number two, you need to put a clear description of each item you are disputing and the reason for each dispute. And number three, request for correction or removal. I'm going to repeat these one more time. This is what you need to include in your dispute letters: your complete name and address, a clear description of each item you're disputing and the reason for each dispute, and a request for correction or removal. Okay. All right. Also, there's some additional support information that you need to include when you're disputing. Number one, you need to send copies, not originals, of your documentation. Number two, you need to send receipts. Number three, a credit card or account statement. Number four, the image of a check. And number five, a screenshot or online transaction or automatic bill. So basically, if you have, for instance, let's look at the credit card. If you paid your credit card down or off, and the credit bureau is reflecting that you did not pay that bill at all, just provide them with a copy of the credit card or the account statement showing that it's paid. Or, for instance, if you paid a bill with your payoff with your check, with a check. All right. The reason why that's important, and one thing I didn't add is you need to send a copy of the front and the back of the check. And the reason why you have to do both is because the back is, from a banking perspective, is where all of the important information is. Say, for instance, you have a car loan that you paid off with Bank of America, just randomly throwing a bank out there. All right. The back of the check will show, when it's cleared, will show Bank of America's name. It will show all of the information that the check was processed on the back of that check as proof that it did clear their system. All right. So again, submit the front and the back of the images of the check. And also just simply a screenshot of an online transaction. So you can literally pull up online your statement, and then you can just screenshot that, and you can also print that off and send that with as supporting information to support your claim that the information on the credit bureau is not correct. All right. So after you file the dispute, all right, the credit reporting agency will send you a letter. All right. Incorrect information cannot be put back. So make sure you request notices of corrections to be sent to individuals or businesses that receive your report. Okay. All right. So part two, key takeaway. Again, if you find errors on your credit report, file a dispute right away. Be sure to keep records and follow up. Do not assume, again, that the information is received. Make sure you receive confirmation that it's been received, and keep following up and keep following up and keep following up until it's gone. All right. Because I've had many a situation. I've talked to many customers, many clients that thought that things were taken off and they weren't, but they only
Curtis,
follow up one time.
I
Yes.
do have one question.
Yes.
How long does it take them to, once you file your dispute, is there an average amount of time that they take to remove that information from your credit report?
It can take 30 to 90 days. That's why it's necessary to continue to follow up and keep your receipts. So, but it can take anywhere from 30 to 90 days on average. Great question, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. Part three here: build, repair, and maintain a productive credit history. Now, this is a very key point. You can actually take this one and this could be a model that you live by here. But your credit history does not have to be your credit future. A lot of people think that if they have bad credit, that it stays with them all of their lives. That is not the case. And here's some ways that you can maintain you can improve and have a better credit future. All right. Some things we've already talked about, but here's some new factors or new points here. Repair and improve credit. All right. So get and review your credit reports. We just talked about that. Dispute and correct any errors. We just talked about that. Pay your bills on time and as agreed. Use as little of your credit limit as possible. Now, if you remember last week, we talked about credit line utilization. Basically, what that means is if you have $10,000, for instance, worth of credit card accessibility or credit line access, make sure that your balances do not exceed 30% of that $10,000, which means in that particular example, no more than $3,000. If you have a $1,000 credit limit, make sure you don't use any more than $300. All right. Keep that credit line utilization percentage at 30% or less. Okay, use a credit building strategy, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Keep old accounts open if you can. All right, so what that means is this. Let me give you my example. I have a credit card with Capital One that I've had since 2008. I paid that thing off years ago, but I kept it open. The reason why is that credit history that I had with that credit card is one of the factors in determining my credit score. If I close that out, not only do I close off the credit line, but I also close out the history that I built with that credit card. Okay, so what you can do is, as soon as you pay off a credit card, what you can do is you can cut the card up, you can put the card in your safe. You can limit the access to that credit line or cut off access to that credit line if you like, but try to keep it open because again, that factors into your credit history. All right. Apply for credit only when you need it. All right. So if you're in a department store, like TJ Maxx, for instance, and one of the things they do ask you is you can get 10% off if you apply for our credit card today. You don't necessarily have to do that. Be strategic when you apply for credit. Again, apply for it only when you need it. You're purchasing a car or you're purchasing a house, for instance. Those are situations where you would need to apply for credit. All right. You can negotiate different terms. So you can actually speak with your creditors. Like, listen, my credit rate is, a little too high. I have a good credit score. Let's negotiate. Can I negotiate a lower interest rate? So that's what we're talking about, negotiating different terms, and ask for a goodwill deletion. All right. So now this is something most people don't realize. You can build an alternative credit history. All right. So document other payments you regularly make, such as your rent, childcare, cell phone bill, electric bill, gas bill, water bill, those things you pay every day, your utilities, for instance, your rent, savings. So what this does for you is this. There's some people out there who just do not want credit, but you still need to have a credit history in order to apply for things like, for instance, a house. Now, I was a mortgage loan officer for 10 years. So one of the things I could do for a client was this, who didn't have a credit history, was this. I would take 4 of the items on this list. Let's use 4 examples. Let's use 4 of these particular items as an example. Your rent, cell phone bill, your electric bill, and your telephone service bill. Let's just take those 4. All right. What you'll do is you would take a 12 to 24-month history for each one of those items, collect those reports. You will give them to your mortgage loan officer. And then what they will do is they will put that with your application, and they will go through and basically add that information to a supplementary credit report, so to speak. And then they will manually underwrite your loan for you. All right. Instead of using credit that you have, they can use these particular utility payments to help build a payment history for you to show how you've paid others in the past. So that's how you build an alternative credit history. So make sure that's an alternative way to build your credit, which is most people don't know you can do that, especially when you're purchasing a house. All right. So if building an alternative credit history is not something that you want to do, then you want to, build credit the traditional way, there are several ways you can do it. Number one, you can get a secured credit card. Now, secured credit card is simply you going to a banking institution. Like my bank where I work offers a secured credit card. We take a minimum of $300 up to $5,000. We put it into a separate savings account, and we use that as collateral. And then we'll issue you a credit card for the amount of money that you put in that savings account. So for example purposes, person comes in, I have $500. I want to put into a savings account to get a secure card. No problem. We'll take the $500, put in a savings account, we'll lock it away. Then we'll issue a Visa or MasterCard credit card to that individual that they can use to help build credit. All right. If they somehow know the default on that particular credit card, then we can take, as a banking institution, can take the monies from the savings and pay off the card. So it's no risk to the bank whatsoever. You can get a credit building loan from any financial institution. You can become an authorized user on an account. You can get a cosigner. You can apply for a credit card at a store or a gas station, or you can make a large down payment and negotiate a loan for the balance. Let's go back to number 3 real quick. Become an authorized user on an account. Let me tell you how important that is to helping you, if you're a parent, establish your children's credit history. What you can do is this. Let me tell you what Lisa and I have done. We have, for instance, our youngest son, Cameron, is in college right now. He'll be 20 his next birthday. So we want him to start off with a good credit history. So what we did was we have made him an authorized user on, we have two credit cards with no balances, but we use just for groceries and everything and gas and expenses like that. And we pay it off every month. We have made him an authorized user on those accounts. So what that does is he gets the benefit of a credit history of building a credit score very fast and very quickly based on what we've done. We've kind of given him a little boost, so to speak. So we did that for our youngest son 2 years ago. And my son and I just established his Credit Karma account this week, actually. So we took a look at his credit to see exactly what his credit score is now. And it's amazing. His credit score was pretty good. Very, very good. So what that does for us is when he decides in the next year or two to purchase a car or get his own apartment, he can do that without us having to co-sign, for instance, because he has established credit. So that's a little gift you can give to your children to help them establish credit, to give them a good start, so to speak. So just a little secret about credit. Now, again, maintain credit. This is kind of redundant, but this is still good. Again, pay your bills on time and as agreed. Continue to pay down your debt balances. Keep a portion of your credit as low compared to your credit limits. Do not apply for too much credit. Avoid actions and inactions that may create new entries. Pay your taxes and child support in full and on time. Check your credit reports and regularly dispute errors, and keep good financial records. Now, there are sources of help that you can tap into that can help you with your credit, help you obtain credit bureaus, help you obtain credit scores, just to help you get your financial house in order, so to speak. Your financial institution, your bank can help you. Nonprofit credit counseling services can help you. Housing counseling agencies approved by HUD can assist you, or Housing and Urban Development. Financial education nonprofit organizations can help you. Certified public planners can help you. Certified financial planners can help you. And of course, there are other resources there. Now, a couple of cautions real quick. Some people accumulate a lot of debt and they decide, you know what, I need to get a debt consolidation loan. Okay. That could be good, especially if your payments are extremely high with all the debts that you're paying out. Now, it's good in that you can consolidate all the debt and you can lower your monthly payment. But the one thing it does not do is it does not address underlying causes of debt. I have a client that I work with that she had good credit, but she had a lot of it. She accumulated a lot of debt. Well, this individual accumulated a lot of debt. So we paid off a lot of her credit. And we put it on a short term, we put it in a way that is more manageable for her. Unfortunately, the way she accumulated that debt and the way she kind of looked at her credit history and her credit, that particular issue wasn't addressed. 12 months later, she was back in more debt. She actually had the consolidation loan that I did for her, and she also had new debt that she had accumulated. So unless you address the underlying causes of your debt, you may find yourself in that particular case, double trouble, so to speak. Now, debt settlement. working with creditors to accept lower payments and settle debt. So when you talk to a company that a collection company, if you have a collection out there or a charge off, you can negotiate a lower payment. But the issue is you may have to pay income taxes on the portion that was settled. So you got to be real careful when you do negotiate that. Now, beware of credit repair scams. Beware of credit repair companies that promise to erase bad debt or remove other negative but accurate information. Promise fast and easy credit repair, or offer to create a new identity for you, which is kind of crazy. They want you to pay monies up front and they won't tell you about your rights. Now, one thing about these credit repair companies, I'm not saying all of them are bad, but a lot of them are. So be real careful. If you want to use one of these organizations, be sure to look them up on the Better Business Bureau. But I will tell you this one thing: everything that they're doing, these particular companies are doing, you can do yourself for free. So just remember that. So be real careful if you're thinking about using a credit repair company. All righty. And also, there are some ways to protect your credit history. For instance, if you're in the military, you can put on your credit report an active military alert. All right. If you are, I have clients that actually put a lock on their credit. So when they apply for credit, the financial institution has to come to them and ask them for a code or password. Other than that, their credit cannot be established. The same way with the credit freeze. You have to provide a credit password in order to access the credit. All right. So, and you can also put a statement on your credit bureau. I had a client that did that. What they did was they put a statement saying, "Do not pull credit," or "Please contact me at a certain number or email address to let me know that you are pulling my credit." So those are things you can do in order to protect your credit history and protect your credit. All right. So lastly, in part 3, a very key takeaway, again, your credit history does not have to be your credit future. All right. And we looked at ways in order to make sure that you can ensure that. Well, we have come to the end of episode 5, Credit Reports and Scores Part 2. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Now, remember, if you want a copy of today's presentation, you can email me at curtis@practical_finances.com. You can also follow me on social media at facebook.com/practical_finances, on Instagram at practical_finances, or YouTube/practical finances. So I will be, throughout the week, I'll be posting information that you can use. If there are questions that you have, again, this is how you can get in contact with me. I'll be happy to answer the information. I'm always checking my social media, so I'll make sure that we can interact and answer any questions that you have. Now, next week, we are going to be talking about identity theft, which is a very significant part of your credit. So make sure you join me next week, August 29th at 10 a.m. Well, again, we'll be talking identity theft. So bring your friends, tell your friends, tell your family members, join me as we continue to talk about this important information.
Curtis, before you go, we do have one question.
Yes.
From Aloysius.
Okay.
It's, how long does it take for your child to establish credit if you make them an authorized user of a credit card?
Typically about six months. It will take them to establish credit. So about 6 months. So it doesn't take as long as if they were just doing it on their own, because remember, if you make them an authorized user, they are utilizing your credit history also with that particular item you're making them authorized user of. If that makes sense. So about 6 months.
Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions out there, Candace?
Nope, that was all.
All righty. Well, I want to thank you all very much. I want to wish everybody a wonderful week. And until we meet next week, you all be blessed. Have a great day.